So here I have 0, the dimension of the rectangle that I'm talking about, or the cube that I'm talking about. The 0 cube looks like a dot. Okay. The 1 cube looks like 2 copies of the 0 cube connected with an edge. The 2 cube looks like 2 copies of the 1 cube connected with edges. The 3 cube looks like 2 copies of the 2 cube. This one's going to be more challenging to draw. So there's one of my copies of the 2 cube. Here's another one. And now in this stage I'm going to connect with edges that are different colors so you can see them. You guys with me on this process? So when you're kind of asking how many new edges are there, well, there's a new edge for every vertex that there was in the previous one. Right? So when I'm thinking, okay, when I go to 4 dimensions to make the tesseract, how many new edges am I going to have? Well, I've got 8 vertices on this cube. I'm going to have 2 copies of that cube all connected with edges. So there's going to be 8 new edges in addition to what I have here. Does that make sense? That should be enough hint to get you started counting there without going to like weird wild lands. Another way you can think about these things is these are the kind of interval from 0 to 1 kind of raised to the power of the dimension you're talking about. So if I kind of raise this to the 0 power, I get like a point. If I kind of think about raising this to the 1st power, it's 1 of it. If I think about raising it to the 2nd power, what I'm really like this kind of notation is a little bit shitty. What I'm really thinking about is I'm thinking about that as being the interval 0, 1 by the interval 0. And then as I increase dimension, like this guy, is going to be the interval from 0 to 1 cubed. That's the interval from 0 to 1 by the interval from 0 to 1 by the interval from 0 to 1. And I'm saying by when I write this cross symbol very intentionally. I mean that in the same way that I use this symbol when I go to the hardware store. When I write 2 by 4, that is what I mean here. With the exception that when you go to the hardware store and you buy a 2 by 4 by 8, all of those numbers are kind of a lie.
Yeah, because they're off by...
It's actually 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and then this one is in feet for some reason.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I only mean the hardware store analogy a little bit. So, good enough to get you started? Okay. And there is a longer recording of this whole conversation where we very carefully count.
But something like this as an explanation would be completely acceptable.
No. Yeah, it is. The trouble is that you have to write down all the words that I said, which means you're going to need to condense it a little bit, because you're probably not going to want to write the 3 paragraphs and the analogy. Do keep in mind, too, that when I'm explaining like this, I'm trying to hit all of you at the same time, and so I'm kind of doubling up on a lot of explanation. So these are a little bit longer in, like the phrasing's longer than what you need.
Yeah, I understand.